Hello, this is Dr. Karen Becker, and by popular demand, today's video is on best to worst foods for your dogs and cats. When I lecture, when I go over the list of the best to worst foods, there are 13 foods on my list. It's interesting because what you're feeding your pet is going to fall in one of those 13 categories. I don't want you to beat yourself up when we go over the list. Invariably, one of two things happens. Either people are feeding a food that they would prefer to not feed, but they economically can't afford to feed a different food, or people simply don't know. And so if you're feeding a food on the lower half of the list or poor quality foods, don't beat yourself up. The goal is to strive to feed a better food once you know or can afford to do so. So everyone will fall on the list somewhere, and just decide where you are on the list, and then of course the goal is to always do better by our pets and feed them better foods that are more species appropriate in a nourishing manner for them. So, as a proactive veterinarian at my practice, I always encourage my clients to evaluate diet, because diet obviously is the foundation of health. But pertaining to diet, there are two very important critical factors that everyone needs to evaluate when it comes to what foods they're nourishing their pets with. Foods have the ability to heal, or foods have the ability to harm. And depending on what you're feeding your pet, foods can do both of those things. So, first important factor is to evaluate species appropriateness. For dogs and cats, a species-appropriate diet contains high protein. Both dogs and cats are carnivores, as well as high moisture. Moisture content's very important for dog and cat foods, because denying dogs and cats adequate moisture leads to a whole host of biological problems, particularly with cats, but it can cause organ dysfunction, including kidney disease, because dogs and cats were designed to eat a diet that contained about 70% moisture. That's what mice and rabbits contain. And when we feed dogs and cats an entirely dry food diet that's about 12% moisture, dogs and cats live in a state of chronic mild dehydration that ultimately can cause organ stress. So, species appropriateness is high protein, high moisture, and low starch. Another word that we use for starches are grains or carbohydrates. So, corn, wheat, rice, soy are all carbohydrates that are not biologically necessary for dogs and cats to consume. So we recommend that you follow what nature intended and feed them everything that they do need, and try to eliminate those foods that are biologically unnecessary for dogs and cats to eat. Second important point to consider when you're thinking about how and what to feed your pets is it's very important that you feed your pets a balanced diet. When I say the word balanced, I mean not guessing that it's approved in terms of meeting all vitamin, mineral, nutrient levels, but guaranteed to meet your pet's basic vitamin, mineral, and nutrient levels through testing. It's very important that foods are balanced. If you're guessing, then chances are the foods are not balanced, and nutritional deficiencies happen much faster in dogs and cats than in people. So a growing puppy and kitten can end up with nutritional deficiencies, obvious signs of organ degeneration or skeletal problems between 2 and 6 months after a deficient diet. Dogs and cats can have life-threatening organ degeneration as adult dogs, 2 to 3 years, or cats, after feeding a nutrient-deficient diet. So the foods have to be balanced. So here we go. Number one on the list, the best food you could ever pick for your dog or cat is a balanced, raw, homemade diet. Balanced meaning nutritionally complete, and you know that to be true because you're following a recipe that has been proven to be nutritionally complete, such as the recipe book you can buy off of mercolahealthypets.com. Raw meaning unadulterated or unprocessed. It's very important that raw foods contain vitamins, minerals, and nutrients that have been unadulterated, and when you process foods, those raw enzymes and nutrients have been destroyed, and the downside is they're not delivered up the food chain to your pet. Homemade diets are some of the best options you can pick because you're in full control of the quality of ingredients that are found in your foods. We also recommend a lot of variety, and the great thing about you doing a homemade diet is that whatever fruits and veggies are in season, or whatever meats you happen to come across that are either on sale or that you're able to locate, you can use them in rotation, which provides really good variety for the animals that you're providing those foods for. Second best food on the list is a commercially available raw food diet. Now, commercially available raw food diets are raw food diets, of course, that someone else has done the hard work and made them for you. It is important that they're balanced, which means there are a lot of raw food diets that are coming on the market that have not yet been proven to be nutritionally complete. You'll know if the raw food is balanced because right on the bag, which you'll find in the freezer section of your upscale pet boutique, Unfortunately, right now there are not a lot of raw foods that are offered at big box pet stores, but you will be able to find commercially available raw foods both online that you can purchase, as well as some of the upscale pet boutiques that may be in your area. It'll say right on the bag that this food has been proven to be nutritionally complete or adequate for all life stages, and that's very important. Third food on the list in terms of best to worst foods. Third best food is a cooked, balanced homemade diet. It's the exact same thing as number one, but just cooked, which means some of the nutrient composition has been diminished because of processing. Fourth best food you can feed is a human-grade canned food. If it doesn't say that the ingredients in the product are human-grade, then they are not. So you'll know that human-grade canned foods are human-grade because it's very clear, and you'll also know by the price. This particular food item is the most expensive food item you can feed your dog or cat. It's very expensive. And what I tell my clients is if you have more money than time, you can purchase a human-grade canned food for your dog or cat. If you have more time than money, most people end up making their own balanced homemade diet because it is quite a bit cheaper. Number 5 on the list is a human-grade dry food. Take a note that dry food is coming in 5th on the list, which means we know that it's not as species appropriate as a moisture-dense diet. Human grade is very important because that means that it's approved in theory for person consumption. It's not made with rendered byproducts. Number 6 on the list is super premium canned foods. Super premium canned foods you would be able to purchase at big box stores like Petco or PetSmart. Number 7 on the list is super premium dry foods. Number 8 on the list is veterinary recommended canned foods. Veterinary recommended canned foods you would purchase from your veterinarian. Such brands such as Science Diet or the Purina veterinary lines, Royal Canin and Waltham are all veterinary types of canned foods that fall into that number 8 category. Number 9 is veterinary recommended dry foods, followed by number 10, which is grocery store brand canned foods, followed by number 11, which is grocery store dry foods, followed by 12, which is the bottom of the list. Number 12 is the semi-moist pouched foods. The reason that I do not recommend that you feed your dog or cat semi-moist pouch foods. Semi-moist pouch foods do not come in a can. They come in a package, and when you open the seal, the food is soft and chewy. If you read the back of the bag of semi-moist foods, you will find that it contains an ingredient called propylene glycol. Propylene glycol is a scary ingredient that is approved in the pet food industry. It's the second cousin to antifreeze, which is ethylene glycol. Propylene glycol is unhealthy for your pets to eat, and we do not recommend that you feed any foods that contain propylene glycol. Bottom of the list, worst foods you could feed your pet is an unbalanced homemade diet, raw or cooked. And I see this unfortunately a lot in my practice where people throw their dogs or cats a chicken breast with some veggies and call it a day. And as much as that is homemade, it is nutritionally unbalanced, and I do see skeletal issues and organ degeneration come about from not meeting pets' calcium, mineral, trace mineral, omega fatty acid requirements by guessing at what a balanced diet is. Here's what's interesting. The worst food on the list being a homemade unbalanced diet can so easily be remedied by simply following an approved recipe that you can go from feeding the worst unbalanced food on the list to the best, which is number 1, a balanced homemade raw food diet, in a matter of just a few minutes by simply adding in the necessary ingredients to make the food balanced. So that's a quick, easy, simple fix when it comes to correcting an unbalanced diet to a balanced diet pretty quickly. So there you have it, the entire list of best to worst foods. If you are on the lower half of the list, make it your goal to work up the list. If you're at the top of the list, you can pat yourself on the back and know that you're doing the very best you can when it comes to providing species appropriate nutrition for the animals that you're caring for.